For the latest mini-election trip, I'm off across London to see Maajid Nawaz, the Liberal Democrat candidate in Hampstead and Kilburn. As the chairman of counter-extremism organisation Quilliam, he is a controversial figure, but is that exactly what the Liberal Democrats need in this seat? A three-way marginal at the 2010 election, can he put in a good show?
Is it just going to be a two-way marginal this time? So what I hope is that my particular candidacy, my presence in this constituency is brings something different to the campaign. It brings a different edge to it. I'm not a career politician. I only joined the Liberal Democrats about 6 months before the 2010 election. It's my first time standing. And my whole campaign has a huge backstory to it. I'm somebody who was, as a youth, as a 16-year-old, actually very, very disillusioned with democracy and the democratic process. I grew up during the Bosnia genocide. I grew up a year before the murder of Stephen Lawrence, at a time that I was facing seriously violent racist attacks in Essex. And as a result of that disillusionment, I became what I classify as a revolutionary Islamist. I joined an Islamist organisation that's still legal, but nevertheless extreme. And I spent a lot of my youth as an activist and a recruiter for this group. And that led me eventually to Egypt, where I was held as a political prisoner and adopted by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience. But my own views began changing, from 24 onwards after my stint as a political prisoner, and I began reconsidering some of the anger that I had, internalized growing up, and that led me eventually to begin a counter-extremism organization called Quilliam and start campaigning for small L liberal human rights values. And eventually that led me to stand for Parliament.
So Quilliam obviously has made the headlines quite a lot with various stances on things. I think when Tommy Met Mo, the BBC documentary, you featured in that, and also the whole debate over the Jesus and Mo cartoons as well. Has that helped or detracted your campaign at all here?
I think it's helped. I think people are able to, when we talk about brand recognition, when we talk about, people associating a candidate with things, often the complaint is, well, what do the Liberal Democrats stand for? And I think the messaging from over the last 8 to 9 months, HQ's messaging, the party's messaging, has been a lot clearer. But, there was that question. Whereas in my case, because of the two examples you've just mentioned and many others, but particularly because of these two, everyone kind of knows, if they know who I am, they know what I stand for. And that's something where, people are often in this day and age where we are faced with so much confusion about politics, about cohesion in communities. People are looking for somebody who's a conviction politician, and people often say, we want someone who will stand up for the area.
And it has been reported as well that Liberal Democrat HQ have taken resources away from this seat because of the whole furore about that. Is that true, and how's that impact been felt?
Well, I think I don't think that taking resources away from marginal seats, which happened across the country, was anything to do with that incident you mentioned. I think it's more so that after the last May's local election results, they've had to really concentrate. Look, the Liberal Democrats aren't a wealthy party. Labour have the unions and the Tories have big business. The Liberal Democrats struggle through donations to make ends meet, and that's just the nature of this party, and it suits me in that sense as well, because I've always liked to kind of side with the underdog.
That's it for this mini election adventure. Join me again soon to find out how the election is being fought in a different part of the country. Find out more at minielection.co.uk.